Welcome to the Morning Report, a production of fightbackmedia.com, the #1 source of urban conservative information in America.
Well, good morning. My name is Willie Lawson of the Morning Report and fightbackmedia.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. This video is going to be here on YouTube and the first video, free video on our Patreon account. So if you're on Patreon, you have to see it on Patreon. Or if you're on YouTube and you're thinking, yeah, I think I want to support this guy on Patreon, go ahead and click over. This is the first part of a series. So we're going to have the first part here and the rest of it on Patreon. So you can go ahead and enjoy that there. All right, listen, we got to talk about this myth anymore of systemic racism. Despite frequent claims that the United States remains systemically racist, the historical record from the 1960s onward show major progress in civil rights, legal equality, and economic opportunity, and social acceptance for African Americans. Landmark laws outlawed formal discrimination. Now, I say that, but so if an individual decides to be racist, well, there's really not much you can do. If the dude down at the corner store is still a bigot and is a member of a shrinking Ku Klux Klan organization, there's really not much you can do about that. Really isn't. But these laws have outlawed formal discrimination, which breaks the idea that the country is still systemically racist. Black educational and income levels have climbed, and even the presidency has been held by a Black man. I remember, right? Critics note that the narrative of an ongoing system of racial oppression is largely fueled by media sensationalism. And we saw that. And we continue to see that. If a white officer shoots a Black suspect, then it's obviously because of race. Obviously. If a Black officer shoots a white suspect, armed or unarmed, it goes largely, unless you live there, it goes ignored. No one even mentions it. That's amazing. So because there's nothing sensational about it. So again, this oppression is largely fueled by media sensationalism and political agendas. As one conservative scholar bluntly put it, systemic racism is a myth, a dodge. So again, this 5-part series examines the evolution of race narratives in the US media and in politics since 1960. We're going to be highlighting factual progress and exploring which groups have benefited from a climate of perpetual racial grievances. All right, part 1. Civil rights breakthroughs through the 1960s. The early 60s saw a final dismantling of the de jure segregation in America with landmark legislation, notably the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. They both forbade racial discrimination in schools, workplaces, housing, public accommodations, and voting. So according to the Library of Congress, the 1964 Act hastened the end of legal Jim Crow. It secured African Americans equal access in restaurants, transportation, and other public facilities, and enabled many Black students to attend integrated schools. So within months, peaceful protests for voting rights in the Deep South had moved Congress. So by 1965, President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, which outlawed literacy tests and sent federal registrars into the South. Immediate impact. As the National Archives reports, by the end of 1965, 250,000 new Black voters had been registered. 1/3 by federal examiners. So within a few years, most Southern states saw Black voter rolls soar from near zero to majorities. These changes instantly erased decades of exclusion. The 1964 Civil Rights Act banned segregation in schools, workplaces, and public life. Segregated lunch counters, restrooms, and parks vanished virtually overnight. Now, I'm not saying for 1 second that there weren't people, individuals, who were happy about all this. That would be foolish. But what I am saying is that the systemic part of what a lot of these people are continuing to push had been ripped out by things like the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act of 64 and the Voting Rights Act of 65. So outlawed barrier, because the Voting Rights Act outlawed barriers like literacy tests. Can you read this? So a surge of Black voter registration followed immediately. Oh, and in 1968, the Fair Housing Act made it illegal to discriminate in home sales, rentals on account of race, sealing legal equality in housing. Now, did that still take place? Yes, but it was illegal. Now, people were suffering through this for sure, but it was illegal. And these people needed to be brought up on charges and prosecuted because the discrimination that we saw, the redlining that people talk about, that did go on. I'm not blind. It was illegal and had been made illegal. So there was no systemic law that made it happen or kept it happening. It was individuals who were breaking the law. Right? So in 67 and 72, Supreme Court decisions abolished any remaining state barriers. For example, interracial marriages bans were struck down in 67. Those measures fully leveled the legal playing field. No American could, by law, and this is important, by law, deny jobs, loans, voting, or education to someone because of race. So if there was a system of racism, then laws and decisions made in 67 and 72 by the Supreme Court banned those laws. Did. The idea that an entire system of law remains rigged by race is undermined by these undeniable facts of legislative history. So by late 1960s, even in the Deep South, Jim Crow was formally dead. Here's some media narratives. The Civil Rights Act, era itself was intensely covered by the media, which often portrayed the struggle in stark moral terms. Images of protest and violence, Birmingham, Selma, energized public opinion. However, the media narrative that arose then was largely that of a unified national triumph over racism, not of pervasive systemic oppression. In fact, coverage often emphasized progress. For example, desegregation victories and bipartisan support. Only now are we dealing with more one-sided narratives. That's what we're seeing now. We're still hearing from media mouths of systemic racism going on. And they're painting everything with that where it makes no sense. Let's move to recently the NFL draft, where Shedeur Sanders, who people had thought that because of his play was going to be drafted either first or second in the recent NFL draft. As it turned out, he was drafted 144th, I believe, somewhere in the fourth round. And of course, the bugaboos came out talking about this is obviously racist, completely ignoring the fact that the first overall pick was a quarterback, a black quarterback, whose name is Cam Ward, who was a quarterback of Miami, and I think he was at a place called Incarnate Word for a couple of seasons, and he went on to Washington State and then transferred to Miami and finished there, and was the first overall pick of the draft, a black quarterback. So somehow making it about race seems silly, but that's what media does now. And there are people, and we're going to find out in later episodes of this particular series, of some of the people who benefit by such ridiculousness and by such division. Because there is no doubt that people are benefiting by this. So the next part of this series is the economic and social progress from the 1970s to the early 2000s. The third part is going to be a new narrative from the 2000s to present. And 2000 seems like, oh, it's been very long ago. It was 25 years ago. It was a quarter of a century ago. Oh my God. And then part 4, who benefits from racial agitation? And then we're going to talk about, now that the myth is exposed, what can we do to reunify America, or to unify America? Thank you again for your time. Thank you for coming to the morning report, and thank you for going out to Patreon and checking us out. And we really super appreciate it. And our new affiliate, 7 Weeks Coffee, I'm going to do a piece in a minute. Please, if you like coffee and you enjoy coffee, and you're pro-life, and you want to see people benefit, you want to see people kept alive, go ahead and explore our friends at 7 Weeks Coffee. All right, until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now. Hi, I'm Willie Lawson of the Morning Report. You know, in all our work here on the Morning Report and Fight Back Media, what we have found being true is one thing for sure. Godly principles are lacking on both sides of the aisle. And many organizations are putting profits before people. Our friend at 7 Weeks Coffee was started to reverse that trend and live out their calling as believers in the marketplace. As a value-based business, 7 Weeks Coffee has a simple and transparent mission: to donate 10% of every sale to pregnancy care centers across the nation. They are committed to earning your trust, not expecting it. And how do they do this? By leading with their values, showing the impact, and providing the highest quality product. Y'all know I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, and 7 Weeks Coffee unapologetically supports pregnancy centers across the nation. Join us by letting your coffee serve a greater purpose.